essentially, this is the way I see it, is that she absolutely hates her. Blake was toxic. She was a narcissist in her life.
This subpoena, this cannot happen. You cannot see these messages.
Right now, if Taylor had one wish, it would be that she never met Blake.
Blake Lively is spiraling because Judge used Taylor Swift evidence after she made one thing crystal clear. There's no forgiveness for backstabbing.
Taylor Swift wins again. New information trickles out in a TMZ article regarding her working with Justin Baldoni's side. Oh boy, case closed if you're Blake Lively on this one.
You don't get to bully the queen of pop and expect a friendship bracelet in return. Taylor didn't say a word, yet exposed Blake's alleged blackmail like a boss. Calm, calculated, and absolutely brutal.
I got to say goodbye to him Friday morning at about 6:30. We were both bawling so hard. It was pretty emotional. We were expecting it, but you know, the bad thing was I spent all this money on some of the best immigration lawyers.
You ever seen someone so delusional that they think a subpoena getting dropped is a victory? Yeah. Welcome to the tragic, self-written reality show of Blake Lively. While her hair mist sits untouched on Target shelves and her fake friendships crumble faster than her skincare promises, Taylor Swift just pulled the coldest betrayal in Hollywood without even lifting a finger. That's right.
So the big news yesterday was that Justin Baldoni dropped the subpoena against Taylor Swift, and Blake Lively's team was celebrating it as a win.
Taylor didn't say a single word publicly, didn't hold a press conference, didn't run to the press like Blake's circus crew. And yet, she absolutely dismantled Blake's victim narrative by just existing. This wasn't betrayal. This was strategic annihilation.
And almost nobody believes Blake Lively.
Let's be clear. Taylor Swift didn't just switch sides, she quietly handed Justin Baldoni's legal team everything they needed. No camera flashes, no drama, just cold, calculated cooperation.
Whether Braun is actually actively involved is unclear. Ironically, he is personally represented not by Nathan, but by Stephanie Jones.
And the best part? Blake didn't see it coming. She really thought Taylor, her so-called dragon, was going to breathe fire on command to save her from the legal mess she created. Turns out the only dragon Taylor was protecting was her billion-dollar empire, and rightfully so.
Taylor Swift does not want to have to be deposed. She doesn't want to have her dirty laundry aired and all of her text messages read and all of that jazz. So she says, here's the email you guys need. Take it. Get me the F out of here.
Now, you're going to hear Blake's camp yell that the subpoena was dropped and how that's proof Taylor's not involved. Please, use your brain. The subpoena was dropped because Taylor's side already gave them what they were after. The dirt's been delivered, just not through the courtroom.
Now that Justin has withdrawn the subpoena sent to Taylor and her legal team after the firm objected to the amount of the unwarranted fishing expedition, etc., etc., Lively's team was quick to reply with a statement and said that we are pleased that Justin and the Wayfair parties have withdrawn their harassing subpoenas to Taylor Swift and her law firm.
It came from the VIP entrance. Behind the scenes, no ticket required. And guess who allegedly held the door open? Daddy Swift himself, Scott Swift. The man who built financial empires and apparently doesn't play games when someone messes with his daughter. You thought tree pain was scary? Wait until you get a call from Scott Swift. That's the sound of your entire PR stunt going up in flames.
Now, others have started reporting on what we alluded to when this initially broke, because I told you guys, look, I still firmly believe it, and I'm hearing it more and more through sources and people I'm talking to. There's only 3 people that this source who told Justin's team that they were extorted could be Tree, Taylor's manager, publicist, or her dad, Scott, or her mom. Now, I'm leaning more towards her parents more and more.
Now, let's rewind a bit because this whole subpoena game was one of the sloppiest moves Blake Lively has ever tried to spin into a power play. And that's saying a lot. On April 28th, Justin Baldoni's team subpoenaed Venable LLP. That's Taylor's law firm, not Taylor herself. So, no, Swift wasn't being dragged into court by name, but her team was absolutely being scrutinized.
As Taylor Swift is now being extorted and threatened with all these text messages to come out. That doesn't help her brand at all. And she's a very powerful business with a huge fan base.
And what happened next? Venable, of course, tried to quash the subpoena by May 12th, claiming they weren't directly involved. Cute, except they didn't deny the actual allegations, which is kind of important, right?
Then on May 12th, 10 days later, Taylor Swift's law firm files to have the subpoena quashed. They're like, we don't want to be involved in this. Please get us, we shouldn't have to abide by this subpoena.
And then comes May 13th. Mr. and Mrs. Perfection, TM, jumped in with their own motion to block the same subpoena. You know what that smells like? Panic sweat. If you're innocent, why block a subpoena to a law firm that doesn't even represent you? Why get involved at all unless you're trying to stop something from coming out? And sure enough, a day later, Brian Friedman hit the courtroom with a letter so loaded, it basically lit the entire case on fire.
It's exactly what it says right here. They got what they wanted. Now, if they have proof that Taylor's lawyer was threatened, if that's all real, that will come out in the process. And they clearly wanted it out there to send a warning shot to Blake and Ryan, who think they're on the road, winning, and they're winning, but no. If they can prove.
Let me paint this for you. May 14th, Friedman's letter accuses Blake Lively, America's sweetheart on the outside, chaos gremlin on the inside, of witness tampering and evidence destruction.
Justin Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, was subpoenaing Taylor Swift's lawyers for information, Taylor Swift as well, for information related to an extortion attempt they claim was happening by Blake Lively's lawyer and Blake Lively to Taylor Swift.
Specifically, urging Taylor Swift to delete 10 years of texts. 10 years. That's not a typo. That's not just, oops, I said something shady once. That's a decade of private conversations that Blake allegedly wanted gone with the wind. Or gone like her shampoo line's reputation. Why? Because those texts probably torpedo every I'm the victim lie she's been feeding the media.
If they can prove that Taylor Swift's team and lawyers, in fact, confirmed or gave them the evidence to show that they were asked not to do this, oh man, Blake, you are in so much trouble. So much trouble.
And if you thought that was messy, buckle up. Because this next part is when Blake really starts digging her own grave and hands the shovel to her lawyer. Yes, her lawyer. The man allegedly called up Taylor's attorney and gave them a little friendly threat. Make a statement in support of Blake, he said, or else we release the private texts. That's not PR strategy, that's textbook extortion.
They will do literally anything to prevent Taylor Swift's text messages from being seen by the public. That's you and me. Why is that? Because Taylor Swift is worth $1.6 billion, my friends.
And you know what Taylor's lawyer did? Hung up on the spot, didn't even entertain the mess. Didn't say, let me call you back. Just hit end call like he was hanging up on a scam call from a fake tax agent. That's how dirty the request was.
That Taylor Swift could try to quash the subpoena. That didn't happen. Instead, Justin Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, pulled out from the subpoena. And now what we find out in this article is going to show the game plan moving forward.
Now here's where it gets even more ridiculous. February 14th, Valentine's Day. Of all days, Brian Friedman gets a call. Not a random anonymous tip, a voicemail from someone extremely close to Taylor. That's when it all came together. A 1-hour call, a complete rundown, everything laid out. The texts, the threats, the power plays.
Sources with direct knowledge tell us, TMZ, Baldoni's side dropped the subpoena after information was voluntarily provided to them. Pfft, what?
And while Friedman didn't name the source publicly, it's heavily implied to be Scott Swift. You know, Taylor's dad. The guy who doesn't speak to press, doesn't play games, and definitely doesn't watch his daughter get dragged through legal sewage without striking back.
Brian Friedman apparently delivered as they said, well, we dropped the subpoena because we got all the information we needed. And, that's how you kind of, it's kind of like how a plea deal works out with prosecutors, where rather than face going to trial and going to jail for 5 years, you do a plea deal, which maybe you get just probation for admitting to a lesser crime, right?
And guess what triggered Scott Swift's rage mode? The Super Bowl. Yep. Apparently, Blake lost her mind because Taylor wasn't spotted with her at the 2Night25 Super Bowl. That's it. That's the whole motive. In Blake's galaxy brain logic, not being seen with Taylor at a major event meant people might realize their friendship was fake.
She didn't say these words. This is my gathering. Is that she was a narcissist and that over the years, it was all this stuff happening. It was chaotic being friends with her, and that it is just like a release. That
So instead of dealing with the fact that maybe, just maybe, Taylor didn't want to be seen with a lawsuit magnet, Blake allegedly tried to force her into faking a friendship for the cameras. If Taylor refused, release the texts.
And that's a big word, voluntarily cooperating right there. So very, very interesting stuff. Here's what old Billy Ballbag Bush has to say.
Okay, some fantastic maneuvering here in the lively Baldoni situation.
That hair.
Like Brian Friedman withdrew his subpoenas of Taylor Swift, not because he had to, but because he likely got what he needed already behind the scenes, possibly through a private negotiation or a cooperation deal. Maybe Scott Swift, who knows?
This isn't just messy. This is pathetic. This is Blake Lively having a complete PR breakdown and trying to drag a billion-dollar brand into her personal pity parade. You don't threaten someone like Taylor Swift. Not when she's worth $1.6 billion. Not when her concerts are boosting the GDP. Not when her silence speaks louder than your entire legal team's fake sob story.
And they're kind of freaking out here because their plan didn't work to send her away and say she bought a puppy with Travis Kelce. Leave her alone. She's off tour. She's tired. Didn't work. Like I said, not a normal response. Way too emotional. And what happened next, really in the media, was kind of a flash in the pan.
And what did Taylor do? She said nothing. She posted nothing. She simply let the facts speak. She let her team handle it quietly, professionally, and with more power than Blake could ever manufacture on a Vanity Fair cover. And now Blake's out here clinging to beauty mist bottles and expired friendships while the entire industry watches in silence. Because nobody wants to defend a bully dressed up as a victim.
And now she decided to launch a mist. I spoke about that the other day. In the middle of all this drama with Taylor Swift, it's the worst timing ever imaginable.
Blake Lively really thought she could gaslight the entire internet. Like we don't have brains, receipts, and working eyes. The moment Justin Baldoni's team dropped Taylor Swift's subpoena, Blake's PR gremlins scrambled out of their caves to declare it a massive win. Yes, nothing screams legal victory like they stopped asking questions because they already got the answers. That's not a win. That's a strategic retreat, sweetheart. Also known as the moment Taylor Swift's silence said more than Blake's entire 12-person crisis PR squad ever could.
In a surprising reversal, Team Justin Baldoni has dropped their subpoena request from Taylor Swift. Now, of course, Blake Lively and most of the mainstream media is jumping on this as a win towards Blake, but it's not. We need to discuss.
Let's talk about that infamous statement Taylor's team made. Because if you thought the word dismissive had a definition, wait till you read what she said about this whole mess. Taylor didn't just decline involvement. She burned the bridge, bulldozed the ruins, and dropped a glitter bomb on the ashes.
That if Miss Swift refused to do so, then private text messages of a personal nature in Miss Lively's possession would be released. Okay? So essentially saying they tried to extort Taylor Swift to come out and make a statement in support of Justin Baldoni. Major bomb. Tons of TikTokers have covered this. This is not new information. I'm just going over this slowly because there's some dogs that aren't barking here that I have to point out to you, okay?
She made it abundantly clear that she had nothing, zero, to do with this Blake Lively disaster movie disguised as a lawsuit. Not the set, not the casting, not even the vibes, which, by the way, is directly calling out the lie Blake tried to float when she claimed Taylor helped choose the lead actress.
So Blake Lively is continuing her delusional path forward, thinking that somehow she can get out of this lawsuit if she has just enough of the right PR and Hollywood friends on her side.
Remember that? When Blake trotted out some story about how she and Taylor both loved Isabella Ferrer's audition tape? Cute. Except nobody, and I mean nobody, ever confirmed Taylor was even present. Not Baldoni, not Ferrer, not Taylor herself. The closest we got was Blake basically saying, "I was with Taylor when I saw the tape." So she was in the room? Or were you just on speakerphone while Taylor pretended to care? Either way, it doesn't count as professional involvement. That's just name dropping with glitter.
I mean, guys, you heard all the ridiculous things they try to do. Everything that they're doing, they try to deflect it and say that it's Justin Baldoni and Wayfair and Brian Friedman doing it, but they're doing it. Or they try to gaslight us as though things are just going really well, really swell over there in the Reynolds and Lively household and with their camp, and that they're really winning and pushing forward.
And Taylor? She's not just annoyed. According to Daily Mail's Insider Tea, which at this point has been alarmingly accurate, Taylor was done long before the subpoena circus. Apparently, she found Blake toxic, manipulative, and full of red flags. "Relieve the friendship is over," was the exact phrase. And honestly, same girl, we've all had that one friend who turns everything into a power trip, and Taylor just silently threw that one into the recycling bin.
But then we also heard about Taylor Swift essentially disowning her, talking about how she was full of red flags. She's relieved their friendship is over, that she's completely cut her off.
And speaking of things Blake tried to recycle, let's talk about the flaming garbage fire that is Blake Brown Beauty. What started as a $100 million fantasy ended up in the clearance bin next to expired Easter candy.
Plunging sale, it went from a $100 million brand to a $15 million brand.
When she launched this revolutionary hair care line in summer 2024, it looked promising. $5 million in the first month. Not bad, right? Except by the 6-month mark, sales had plummeted to just 6.5 million total. That's a tanking so bad it makes MoviePass look like Apple.
Because last time, as you know, when she launched Blake Brown this summer, it was a disaster, obviously, because of her. She's blaming it on Justin Baldoni. And of course, when that lawsuit became public, the sales of Blake Brown dropped even further.
By early 2025, weekly sales were circling the drain at just 350K to 400K. That's not just a dip. That's a nosedive off a cliff into a pool of broken conditioner bottles. The brand, which was once being hyped as the next Glossier, is now projected to barely scrape $15 million in total sales this year. And guess what? Target's not impressed. Executives are reportedly furious, especially now that Blake's brand isn't even in their top 50 hair care sellers.
All these people who put so much time and energy into this brand, and then she ruined it. So it says here that the debut of Blake Brown was pretty strong. They sold for $5 million the first month. But
imagine thinking you're Sephora royalty and ending up behind some random coconut shampoo in aisle 12. Now let's take a second to admire Blake's panic response. First, she tried flooding Instagram with ads for some hair mist no one asked for. Then she tried making it a family affair, posting how Ryan Reynolds wears the scent too. Please. Nobody's buying a $30 bottle of mid just because Deadpool allegedly likes it.
So now she's trying to sell this mist. And this article goes into how disappointed Target is, because these products are sold in Target. It says here that Blake Lively's hair care line was leveled by Baldoni Gates.
And when that didn't work, she started fading herself out of the brand's own Instagram page. Go look. Blake's face is gone. She ghosted her own business like it was a bad Hinge date. If that's not PR rock bottom, I don't know what is.
So I went into Blake Brown's Instagram to see what they're doing, and they're not posting one single picture of Blake Lively. Isn't that interesting? I was scrolling down and I couldn't find a single picture of Blake Lively on their Instagram.
But we're not done with the flops yet, because apparently, when the hair mist doesn't sell, it's time to call in fake friends. Enter Rob McElhenney and Caitlin Olsen, the co-owners of Wrexham FC with Ryan Reynolds, who got dragged into Variety for a sympathy PR puff piece.
So apparently they kind of explained to Variety why they haven't gotten involved and supported them publicly. And their explanation for that is, it's just our way of staying connected and navigating something together.
Blake clearly thought they'd vouch for her publicly. Instead, we got the most lukewarm, legally approved support quote of all time. They're just trying to stay connected. Translation: we're stuck in business with Ryan and praying this circus ends soon.
So the person here says that if the celebrity, the founder of a brand, is not out hawking it nonstop authentically, it's not going to work. So I went into Blake Brown's Instagram to see what they're doing, and
Even funnier, that same article basically exposed the truth. Rob and Caitlyn aren't defending Blake because they don't want to catch the PR plague. And who could blame them? Associating with Blake right now is like licking a subway pole during flu season. They're being polite, but distant, which, again, proves what everyone in Hollywood already knows. Blake's social circle is now a triangle.
so they're definitely trying to distance themselves. But that's really hard because the brand has her name and it's hers. And now they're pretending that it has nothing to do with her. And at the same time, she keeps pushing it on her story on Instagram.
Desperate to prove she still has friends, Blake then pulled the oldest PR stunt in the playbook, performative feminism. She suddenly remembered Amber Tamblyn exists and started promoting her decade-old book like it was hot off the press. This book, by the way, isn't even new. It's a reprint from 10 years ago. But sure, Blake, go ahead and pretend this is about uplifting women's voices. We all know it's just a distraction from the fact that no one with a current career wants to be seen near you.
But it says Baldoni has now withdrawn the paperwork seeking information from Swift about what she knew about former friend Lively's war with the actor, with an insider exclusively revealing the reason for the drastic move.
And then, because it's not Blake without cringe, she reposted an old photo with Paul Feig at a pizza place. The caption tried to link it to Another Simple Favor, the sequel no one asked for and no one's funding. This movie is so buried that even IMDb gave up updating the page. Yet here she is, posting pizza pics like she's promoting Avengers Endgame. The delusion is Olympic level at this point.
We both are just trying to offer our support in any way that we can that doesn't just simply add oxygen to the fire, which means that he doesn't want to go out there and do it publicly because he knows that he will get a huge backlash online for doing so.
Here's the truth. Blake Lively is spiraling. Her PR moves are like expired fireworks. All smoke, no bang, and kinda sad to watch. She lost Taylor Swift, fumbled a $100 million brand into the clearance section, and now she's out here recycling 10-year-old feminist books and pizza night photos like they're game changers. The worst part? She still thinks she's winning.
Essentially, this is the way I see it, is that she absolutely hates her. Blake was toxic. She was a narcissist in her life. She didn't say these words. This is my gathering. Is that she was a narcissist and that over the years...
But at this point, even the dollar store doesn't want Blake Brown beauty. And even Ryan Reynolds' celebrity pals are like, girl, we're good. That's not doing life together. That's doing damage control. You know you've hit rock bottom when your overpriced shampoo ends up chilling next to expired bubblegum and off-brand deodorant at a discount store. And that's exactly where Blake Brown beauty is sitting. TikTok has receipts. Multiple users. Real customers. Not the influencers Blake probably bribed with free hair mist and fake hugs. Exposed her products being sold at 80 to 90% off. We're talking about stuff that was originally $18.99, now going for under $3. $3. That's less than a McChicken. That's not luxury hair care. That's liquidation humiliation.
Baldoni Gate hurt Lively's hair care line. The most recent nonsense with Swift may all but end it. Over the past month, weekly sales have hovered between 350,000 and 400,000 according to UP data.
And the best part? The reviews aren't just dragging the price. They're dragging the entire existence of the product. Multiple influencers, including actual beauty reviewers who know the difference between aesthetic and accident waiting to happen, called out the packaging as straight up dangerous. The bottles are big, heavy, require 2 hands to open, and have plastic lids sharp enough to qualify as a weapon in 3 states. Squeeze too hard? Congratulations, you now have shampoo and a lawsuit. It's giving OSHA violation in a bottle. And let's not forget what kicked off this ice storm. Blake's alleged threats. Taylor's camp was threatened. Her private texts were reportedly used as leverage. And instead of reacting emotionally or running to the press, Taylor did what powerful women do. Nothing. That's right. She didn't need to scream or tweet. She let Brian Friedman handle it. And what happened? The threat alone was enough to blow the whole charade wide open.
So finally, I go on maternity leave, and Brian Friedman does the thing. He seeks to subpoena her, allegedly. And her team immediately, Taylor Swift team, comes out and they issue a scathing response and a statement to the press. I'm going to read it here. A rep for Taylor Swift told the media, Taylor Swift never set foot on the set of this movie.
Brian didn't even need Taylor's texts in court. Just the mere possibility of having those receipts turned Blake into a puddle of chaos. She started posting like her account had been hijacked by an intern having a breakdown. Every story, every post, every PR stunt smelled like panic. And it wasn't just fans noticing. Other celebs were backing away, fast. Emily Blunt and John Krasinski, gone. Even the silent types started unfollowing Blake, digitally distancing themselves before they caught whatever disease of delusion she was spreading.
I think it's safe to say that more bigger star celebrities that are friends with them will take a step back more publicly, because now it's okay to do it.
And now we've arrived at what can only be described as the most public meltdown in Hollywood since Anne Hathaway tried to rap on Ellen. Blake Lively wanted to be the queenmaker. She wanted to destroy Justin Baldoni, control the media, weaponize Taylor Swift's name, and waltz away with her hair care empire intact. Instead, she ended up with nothing but ruined friendships, a brand in freefall, and the worst Google search results this side of Kanye on Alex Jones. She tried to blackmail Taylor Swift, a walking billion-dollar economy, and thought she'd win.
So now we all know that Blake Lively tried to blackmail Taylor Swift and threaten her or demand that she would delete text messages between her and Blake Lively. So yeah.
Blake really believed she could threaten someone whose fan base once tracked down a jet's flight path just to cancel her carbon footprint. Blake underestimated Taylor's silence, and it burned her more than any public statement ever could. And the final twist? Brian Friedman and Justin Baldoni didn't even go nuclear. They never had to. Taylor's cooperation, given quietly behind the scenes, made the truth clear. No long court drama, no public text dump, just the threat of exposure made Blake's entire legal house of cards collapse. She crumbled before the subpoenas even reached her mailbox.
Miss Swift released a statement of support to Miss Lively, intimating that if Miss Swift refused to do so, then private text messages of a personal nature in Miss Lively's possession would be released. Okay?
Now, here we are. Blake's beauty line is dead on arrival. Her Instagram is a graveyard of fake positivity. Her friends, gone. Her husband, too busy praying Deadpool 3 gets good reviews to bother playing cleanup for this disaster. And all that remains are a few clearance shelf hair mists and some sad little PR clips. This isn't just a fall from grace, it's a straight up plunge into delusion. And Blake? She jumped headfirst with a grin, holding a shampoo bottle like it was a crown. And if you thought this was the end of Blake's downfall, it's just getting started. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next chapter of this Hollywood disaster.